All right, Don. City, I'll say this right, for me, are still the best team in the world. And I know the table says something different, whatever else, but in a one-off game, I would take City and Pep.
All day long.
And, I think they showed it to us. However, you touched upon it. I'm just wondering if defensively, I think it's it's fair to ask the amount of goals that they leak. And a lot of times, it's not down to system. It's down to individual errors. However, the individual errors, systems exist to mask the individuals, right?
Yeah.
To help the individual, put you in a situation where you're going to commit less errors. And I'm wondering, we saw Ruben Diaz had that awful game a couple weeks ago. Akanji in midweek. I thought Ake should have done a lot better on Kulusevski. Is this? And Guardiola's had a really bumpy start.
Yeah.
Even though
great last season, but this season looks a little bit shaky.
Yeah, great last season playing for a different team with a different coach.
No, but even when he come into Man City,
no.
He played about 6 games, and I was like, it looks like he's played 600 games. He's that good.
So, I wonder, is this a thing? Is he leaving? Is there too much individual defending at City where you need to?
I tell you what I saw in the City game and saw in the Liverpool game, because all the coaches and all the managers now are like watching games like every single minute. They're trying to get an edge tactically, system wise.
I would hope they were doing this before. So it's
I know.
It's literally their job.
No.
I know you ex-footballers are all a little lazy, but come on.
Listen to what I'm saying. So this inverted fullback role, where it's such a strength for an inverted fullback to go into midfield, it's the turnover in possession. So if you're Carl Walker, for example, if you're playing right back and you go inverted into midfield and you give the ball away, there's a massive gap down that side. Liverpool are doing it with Trent. They've done it at the weekend. We'll get onto that later on. So tactically, teams like Tottenham, who are so good on the break and so fast, they can try and exploit what Man City's strengths are with the inverted fullbacks going into midfield and overloading. So that's why I think you saw a real game where I think Pep said it was like a basketball game. And it was back and forth. Then it's in the lap of the gods who can finish.
Okay, but equally, you're City. You have the better players.
Yeah.
You should be able to, when you're playing well, you expect to be able to dominate the ball, to dictate it, turn it into the kind of game that you want to play.
Yeah.
And you also surely Pep's plan isn't like, let me put Akanji and Ruben Diaz and whatever in situations where they can make individual errors, right?
Yeah.
So,
but he's thinking from a proactive point of view, because he's implementing his game plan. He wants the inverted fullbacks into midfield. He wants the overload because it works so well for him. The fact that every now and again, if the opposition like Tottenham are quick on the counter and you give cheap possession away, you can be in a little bit of trouble. We saw that against Leipzig. Cheap goals that Man City got spun in and around the halfway line.
But it's not even Walker who goes into. In this game in the first half, it was Akanji who stepped into midfield. So you still had.
It's the same problem. Doesn't matter who it is. If it's Rico Lewis, if it's Akanji,
right. It's just that
Walker.
With 3, you can cover it better than if there's just a gap in the left wing position, right?
It's a fine line, isn't it? From saying to an Akanji or an Ake or a Carl Walker, don't be inverted, stay in your slots and be a 4, then defensively you'll be a little bit more sound, but that takes away from what Man City want and what Pep wants, which is control of midfield. So it's a very fine line. I wouldn't look too deep into Man City conceding the amount of goals they've conceded lately. It's a slight worry, obviously, because you don't want to be conceding 2 and 3 every game, but I think once they kick into gear, as they normally do, and they get the better players back, and Pep gets into his defenders to defend properly. And by the way, can't remember what scoreline it was when Erling Haaland missed the sitter. That could have been the game away completely gone from Tottenham. So it's the margins.
Yeah, no, I take your point about the margins. I just wonder a little bit about some of people will make mistakes. Even the best defenders in the world will make mistakes, but I do wonder whether doing that doesn't. I'll sometimes leave the defenders too often in one-on-one situations.
So here's the contradiction, right? So Tottenham scored 3, didn't win the game. Chelsea scored 4, didn't win the game. 4-4 and a 3-3. So what I'm saying is City are backing themselves to go forward and scoring.
Oh yeah,
you can score. You can score 4 against Man City and you still can't beat them.
Oh yeah, no argument there. You touched upon Haaland. When you score as many as you do, as Haaland does, that there's no argument there.
No.
Plus, he does. And the more I watch him, you realize he does so many other things other than scoring.
Yeah.
That if he was just like one of those center forwards who scores 10 goals a season, I'd still have him in my side because he does so many other things.
Yeah.
That said, when you look at he's had some spectacular misses this season. He had one in this game with virtually the whole goal to shoot at. He put it wide.
Yeah.
Just from a footballer's perspective, do you have any theories as to what
Confidence?
happened? Do you think Haaland lacks confidence?
No.
Or lacked confidence in that minute?
Listen, he's probably not hitting the same numbers he's hit last season. Where last season he was missing his chances.
He's not far off.
No, but last season he was hitting hat tricks left, right, and centre, and it was like, he's going to break every record that's going, and he's still unbelievable. But I would imagine as a striker, I've played in that sort of midfield and sometimes as a number 10. If you miss some chances, it doesn't make you unconfident in terms of your personality, but you can second guess yourself in that moment. So Haaland might be thinking, right, the goalkeeper Vicario might have been getting across. I need to be more accurate. I need to put it right in the corner. I'm guessing what's going through his mind. So he's probably thinking about it too much. And I know, being a footballer, when you think about the game too much, you never play your best football. Footballers always play their best when they're free and when they've got self-confidence, and you do things off the cuff and natural. And he's probably just trying that a little bit too hard.
So, well, it's funny you mentioned Vicario there. I mean, and to be fair, and this reinforces the point you made earlier also about City's attacking prowess. Vicario, I thought, made a ridiculous save off of Bernardo Silva. You had the Haaland miss. City hit the woodwork twice, I think. Alvarez and was it Doku earlier?
Were you watching the game when Tottenham went 1-0 up? I was still thinking 5-1 Man City.
It did look like City could have scored 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But they still conceded 3 at the other end in ways that maybe shouldn't happen. What I wanted to get you is on Spurs' goal. So you have Son running through with Doku. I would assume, Son is by no means slow, but I would assume Doku is faster.
Yeah.
It's interesting because the pass from Bryan Gil, if I recall correctly, bounces and kind of sort of takes a weird bounce, almost like, like
check.
Yeah, like in cricket when they put the spin on it, it bounces and it goes in a different direction, and it seems to land right into Son's pass. Now Gil's a gifted footballer; he's not that gifted. It was perhaps that little bit of good fortune, but could Doku have done more? Is it the old joke about kind of the forward winger defending differently than a defender would?
I think that, and probably he doesn't make that mistake in 3 years' time or 4 years' time when he's got muscle memory and he's got games behind him to realise what he should do in that situation. So defenders wouldn't allow that ball to bounce. That's his first mistake, because as you said, he's probably quicker than Son. What you can do if you're in between and the ball's going to bounce is just run in a straight line and get goal side of Son.
Yeah, and then make Son beat you.
Exactly, make Son beat you. So that's inexperience. Doesn't make he's a bad player. We've all made mistakes when we're young. He's just in an alien position to him, going backwards under pressure, trying to get the check and the spin of the ball. He knows Son's to his right hand side. And he's made 2 errors, letting the ball bounce and not running and getting goal side.
You often said that, or you've said before that a footballer's mind is like a computer processing all these inputs.
Yeah.
Was one of the inputs maybe that the reason he didn't go and kind of get goal side, stand him up, was he didn't think that Son was going to beat him one-on-one, did he?
No, I don't think so.
He's not a natural one-on-one defender.
No, I don't think so. What I saw in that scenario was a young player trying to get back inside and trying to do the right thing. He just made an error. And when you make one error against someone like Son, who's rapid, you can lose Son by a yard, and then that's it. You've gone. The fact that he didn't defend the situation particularly well, and then once Son was 3, 4, 5 yards away, that's it. That's history. No one can catch him. So it's an error that he'll learn from. He'll probably never be in that position ever again. But if he is, he'll know exactly what to do.
All right, let's talk about Tottenham. I think the good news if you're City is that you only play Tottenham twice a year. In the sense that, and I don't mean so. Obviously, they don't have a great record against Tottenham, so I'm not talking about that kind of stuff because regular listeners will know I don't believe in this superstition, historical relevance, or whatever. But it's more to do with the way Ange Postecoglou plays, because you really get the sense that the way they leave so many players up the pitch, the way, I mean, poor Udoji, like, I don't know what, but, he's playing as a number 10.
His positions were bizarre at times, weren't they?
But that's what he's told to do.
Yeah.
Like, that's, so Ange has his own way of approaching football, and it can be very awkward to play against. I don't think anybody plays Man City like that.
No. Great though, isn't it?
Oh, and it's very effective too.
It's a strange one, because watching the game, Gab, I don't know how you felt watching the game, but after the defeats that they've had, and there is context, I mean, suspensions and so many injuries and a depleted team, depleted centre-backs. So with going into this game, but I was watching the game thinking there's different narratives every 5 or 10 minutes. It's like, they're so naive. You can't keep doing this. Then they've took the lead and you go, right. Oh, to be fair.
Can I say something about that word, naive?
Yeah.
So naive has a very specific meaning, and people in football use the word naive. And I'm having a go.
No, you can have a go. No, educate me.
No, it's not to educate you, but like, naive doesn't mean that, you took risks and you were punished for it, which is, I think, the way a lot of people use it.
Right.
I don't think Ange is naive at all. I think
he was very naive in the Chelsea game.
I think he's a gambler. I think he gambles.
I agree with he's a gambler. But everything in my football world and my football knowledge over 30 years in the game tells me, why would you defend with 9 men on the half?
Game.
No, yeah, well, it's the one that stands out the most. If we're talking about naive or being a gambler or being great to watch or being this manager that's on the front foot, but when you're down to 9 men against a Chelsea side, who, if you got on a low block, probably wouldn't have scored to this minute. They wouldn't have scored, Chelsea. But if you simplify it and you go, you've got 9 men on the halfway line and they're shattered, why would you ask those defenders who have put so much into the game to do 50-yard runs going backwards? Why wouldn't you have them on the edge of your 18-yard box and make all the distances smaller?
You could look at it that way, and you would...
Well, that's the way I look at it, because it got pumped in the end.
I think he would play the percentages and say...
But that's not playing the percentages, though.
No, but play the percentages in a different way, right? So you've got a nervy, chaotic game where players have been sent off. There are other players who probably should have been sent off on both sides, but weren't.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I throw something completely different at them that they're very unprepared for,
right,
this might just work. And for a while...
And they got beat 4-1.
But, all right, the fourth goal in garbage time or whatever.
No, it doesn't matter.
But I'm saying for a while, it worked. Whereas he evidently felt, if I go and if I keep a low block and just boot the ball out, eventually they're going to score. And they're going to score because I don't have my center backs. They're going to score.
So I guess the question is then, is the style and what you're telling your team to do more important than probably, or could have took a point from the game?
So even a point, but most likely would have lost.
So even though you could have sacrificed a point, the greater good is you're sticking by your principles.
No, baby.
No, that could be a good thing.
I don't think that's necessarily the case here. I think he genuinely thought, and look, for a long time, Chelsea kept running off sides in that game. Anyway, we're not talking about that game. We're talking about this game. So we are getting sidetracked. What strikes me about it is just it's a different use of space. It's a way of stretching the game. He gives his players a ton of freedom. Kulusevski said after the game, he was asked what Ange told him at halftime, and he said, "Stop thinking, just play," which is a nice line.
Great line.
But equally, when we talk about smart footballers and stuff like that, we praise intelligent footballers, right? Presumably you're intelligent because you think. If nobody's thinking...
Yeah, but maybe it's a different angle that he's coming from. Maybe where if you look at Guardiola's tactics and his stance and how he wants his players to really overthink and really be precise in every single moment, and more like he micromanages his players. Pep, and I want you to stand here and I want you to do this and you stand there because of what's going to happen. Maybe Ange is one of these where he's saying, stop thinking too much. Just play. You're all internationals. You're good players. Go and attack Man City. We're a good team.
It could have been that. I think the issue with that, and I think there's a lot to admire in it, is that when you try to create, when you sort of give up on patterns of play, but you try to sort of create this sort of organic, just play, find your positions. If Udoji goes in midfield, all I ask is that if you see your teammate in a certain position, you cover for him and stuff like that, right? It was pretty basic. It's like the opposite of rigid tactical football, but I think you need chemistry to do that. And I don't know if it's something that you do when you've got this group of players who basically have almost never played together.
That's
because
it.
you look at this team, right, and they had so many absentees, right? Emerson and Ben Davies, neither of whom is a center back in the four, certainly has played very much there. These guys have had, a couple games together.
Yeah.
Brian Heel, I think this was his second start.
Yeah.
Lo Celso, also his first or second start of the season.
Yeah. The chemistry comes from when you have the group of players, doesn't matter which group of players it is, and they're playing regular game time, and you can form relationships.
Right. But which is not the case here because these guys haven't played.
Exactly. So the chemistry, as we saw at the start of the season, was there.
Yeah.
Because he had a pre-season to work on his players. Then the games that started in the Premier League, or winning games, scoring goals, everything was amazing. So I find it very difficult to criticise Ange in what he's doing. I find it difficult to have a pop, even though they've lost lost a couple of games or 3 games in a row, then drew against Man City. At the same time, I don't think he can keep on playing this way. Playing his way, the gambler's way, might win him an FA Cup. And if Tottenham fans are happy with that, which they should be, then amazing. But I don't think this style, the gambling style, can get you to where you want to be.
It's the old argument, I think he would say, if he were here, and he would say it in a different accent to mine, of course, he would say, look, we can either do what the other top teams do and try to do it better than them, which we probably won't be able to do because we have worse players, or we try to do something different.
Exactly. So you can't knock him, can you?
I
mean, how many times did we sit here last year, Gab, and we talked about Tottenham being 1-0 down at half-time and 2-0 down at half-time and had to show some character to come back.
I
now
totally
you're looking at a different Tottenham side. If you're a fan, you've got to be happy what you're watching.
I think so. And look, if this goes on for 3 years and they're always 5th or 6th on the table, then people will get annoyed.
Fair enough.
But after the previous experiences under Conte, under Jose Mourinho, and so on,
that's fair.
I think they're going to view this differently.